CNN's Dana Bash thought she could get the Utah governor to slip up and say something he shouldn't say, even if it's obvious, regarding this Charlie Kirk assassin situation and the assassin's new soon-to-be transgender partner. Because the governor said some real stuff in his press conference, and it's something that Dana and the news media and the liberals really do not like. It's itsSeanDaniel here. I think you guys will find this very, very impressive. Let's go.
Here with me now, live, is Utah Governor Spencer Cox. Thank you so much for being here. I want to get to all that in a moment, but I do want to start with some of the many unanswered questions about the investigation. You told the Wall Street Journal that it is, quote, very clear to us and to the investigators that this was a person who was deeply indoctrinated with leftist ideology. Can you elaborate on that and be more specific?
Well, sure. So that information comes from the people around him, from his family members and friends. That's how we got that information. Again, there's so much more that we're learning and so much more that we will learn. There will be official charges will be filed on Tuesday, and there will be much more evidence and information available then. And again, we're interviewing all kinds of people, everyone that knows him, and trying to learn more about what that motive actually was.
Well, some outlets are reporting that the suspect lived with a transgender partner. Is that accurate? And are investigators looking at this part of his life as a possible motivation?
Yes, definitely. And yes, I can confirm that. I know that has been reported, and that the FBI has confirmed that as well, that the roommate was a romantic partner, a male transitioning to female. I can say that he has been very cooperative. This partner has been incredibly cooperative, had no idea that this was happening, and is working with investigators right now.
And how is that relevant to the investigation when it comes to the motive? Are you learning that?
Sure. Well, yeah, that's what we're trying to figure out right now. Again, it's easy to draw conclusions from that, and so we've got the shell casings, other forensic evidence that is coming in, and trying to piece all of those things together.
You said that the roommate is being very helpful. Has that individual explain to law enforcement what the mindset of the shooter was and whether or not it is connected to his ideology or his situation as transitioning, as you just described?
I'm not sure about that piece right now, Dana.
Okay, so we're not sure if the fact that he was romantically involved, as you say, with his partner who was transitioning is relevant to the motive of the murder based on the investigation.
Well, sure. Again, all of these things we're trying to figure it out. I know everybody wants to know exactly why and point the finger, and I totally get that. I do too. And so I just want to be careful, as I haven't read all of the interview transcripts, and so we'll have to wait and see what comes out.
Great, respectable, and wise job by Governor Cox to wait till there's more information out, because if he makes assumptions, even if they're wise assumptions, could get him in trouble without having laid out facts, because the media, mostly the media, most Americans, most people in the world would understand if he made some assumptions, would understand the logical connection of the darkness of transgenderism to wanting to possibly kill somebody who's speaking out against transgenderism and calling it out for the dark thing it is, the mutilation of the body. But he's smart. Wait until the facts come out. Very intelligent. Now, Dana is probably going to paint this whole thing and waiting for him to slip up. You see that look on her face? Ooh, that's an evil lady, in my opinion. Got to say the legal words out here. You know what I mean. She's probably going to try to see if she can get him to slip up and make some obvious perception, analyzation, and connection between the liberal ideology that this guy had to be embracing, being with a person who was going to be a transgender, and based on the stuff we saw in the bullet casings, she's going to try to get him to slip up, I bet you, this rest of this interview, to say something that he can't say because he doesn't have concrete evidence yet, which, is smart as a governor. He's got to wait.
What you told the Wall Street Journal about that this is a person indoctrinated with leftist ideology. And the reason why I think it would be great to be more specific is because your goal of trying to lower the temperature, you said that this is based on investigation and interviews with people who knew him. Did they just use the term leftist ideology, or did they give specifics?
Yeah, there are conversations that were discussed specifically about Charlie Kirk, other conversations about the direction that this was going. And look, my job is just to tell people I really don't have a dog in this fight. If this was MAGA and a radicalized MAGA person, I would be saying that as well. If the Friends were saying that, I would be sharing that as well. That's not what they're sharing. And so I do think it is important, again, to understand how someone gets radicalized like this. And in this case, it happened as much as people wish it wasn't or don't want it to be this. These are the facts that are being presented to us. If there are additional facts that would point otherwise, but family discussions, parents, this is what they're saying, and these things happen. And so it's okay to have these discussions.
How can the governor say that with certainty, that it was the leftist ideology he had been indoctrinated with that contributed to him doing this heinous act? Well, partially because the family supposedly said that on multiple occasions. And secondly, because the leftist ideology, people like Dana Bash, people like Jake Tapper, people on CNN, MSNBC, they were forever proclaiming how evil, how fascist, how oppressive, how racist, and how inflaming the fury of division and chaos Trump and his supporters were. So if you guys say that stuff on repeat, and you represent the leftists, you could see how someone could get indoctrinated and infuriated to the point of doing something like this. How is that an unreasonable reach?
Governor, he said, against all law enforcement recommendations, we demanded the video footage and enhanced stills of the suspect be released to the public. Who was recommending against releasing that video? Was it Utah law enforcement?
No, again, this was just an internal discussion that was happening between everyone. We certainly never recommended against that. I just want everyone to know how all of this came together. This was a co-lead operation. So the FBI was co-lead with the state. We worked very closely together. I think Director Patel would tell you it was flawless. The cooperation between the feds and the state and the locals. I know there was a discussion, and it wasn't, the state versus the feds or the locals versus the feds. It was the feds and the locals and the state versus the feds and the locals and the state. It was everybody just trying to decide, is this a good idea? The reasons to release it, I think, are pretty obvious, right? It makes it easier for lots of people to see it and maybe find someone. The reasons not to is you immediately get 10,000 tips and 50 different leads, and you have to chase all of them down. So that's the discussion, nothing out of the ordinary.
Did anybody else think the tweet by Kash Patel and his statements at the press conference about this is what happens when you let good cops be cops, did anybody think that was pretty cringe, like he was reaching for some credit to promote how well the FBI did with this? Because that's how it felt to me, because the father is the one who turned in the son. Now, Kash Patel says it's because he recognized his son in the released video. It was, supposedly, I thought it was the son who told the dad that I did this. Now, did that come from the dad questioning him because he saw him in the photos? I don't know, but it felt like Kash Patel is really trying to stretch for some credit because it took them 33 hours. The guy was able to drive like 4 hours back home. And I just don't think it's a good look. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below.
McKay Coppins from The Atlantic is reporting that President Trump called you after your remarks on Friday, and that the president told you, quote, the type of person who would do something like that to Charlie Kirk would love to do it to us. What was your response to the president in that conversation?
Well, it was a long conversation, by the way. We talked about lots of things, but it was very sobering. And again, he's not wrong. I mean, as he knows better than anyone, as someone who literally was injured by a bullet. I mean, a fraction of an inch away from being killed a year ago. He understands that better than anyone. I would also just note that he also mentioned multiple times that he was grateful for the press conference and the message that we shared. And so I'm grateful, that he's talked about nonviolence. He's quoted Charlie Kirk on the nonviolence issue. I understand he's also very angry, and I get that. This is his close personal friend, and anger is a normal reaction.
So he was grateful for the press conference. Others in his orbit, Governor, were not. Steve Bannon talked about you calling to tone down the rhetoric, saying Spencer Cox is a national embarrassment in a time where we need action. He tells us to sing Kumbaya and hold hands with Antifa. This is not a time for pontificating. This is a time to declare Antifa a domestic terrorist organization and have the FBI go kick down some doors. What's your response to Steve Bannon?
Well, again, Mr. Bannon is angry, and rightfully so. And I'm not saying we have to just sing Kumbaya and hold hands. What I'm saying is we actually should disagree. I think Charlie represented that better than anyone. Charlie said some very inflammatory things, and in some corners of the web, that's all people have heard. But he also said some other things about forgiveness. He said some amazing things about when things get dark, putting down our phones, reading scripture, going to church, talking to our neighbors. He said that we have to engage, and that's what I appreciate most about Charlie Kirk. Said if we don't keep talking, that's when the violence starts. Look, there are conflict entrepreneurs out there who benefit from radicalizing us, and I'm not one of those. I don't know that that's particularly helpful, but he is right at this. We need to find out how this happened, and we need to stop it from happening.
I watched that press conference that Governor Cox had with Kash Patel there, and he did a whole briefing and he did a whole speech. I thought it was impressive. It was really balanced, because he could have been so irritated and just flaming out and being so mad, like some of the people on Twitter and like Steve Bannon. He handled that so gracefully, so respectfully, but still with firmness and seriousness. I thought that was a great press conference. And for Steve Bannon to say that he was basically kissing the liberals' ass and playing nice guy is a total misrepresentation, in my opinion, of that press conference. You guys can let me know down below in the comments, but he's under so much pressure. He's a governor. He has to speak in a certain... He can't just sit on a podcast like Steve Bannon, okay? He doesn't need to explain about Antifa and all these things. We're going to go after these groups, because Trump already said that in his address after Charlie got assassinated. He doesn't need to go inflame everything. It was a very respectful and impressive press conference. I hope you guys go watch it if you haven't already. For Steve Bannon to go in such critical mode about what he needs to say shows me he doesn't fully understand the responsibility and role that you have as a governor compared to a podcaster.
You called social media a cancer on our society. I know you have made talking about social media one of your key issues as governor of Utah. What should or even can government do to cure this cancer, as you call it?
Well, there's some things that we're working on for sure. We have to get phones out of the classroom. We're doing that in Utah. Many states are doing that right now. We have to hold the largest companies in the history of the world with combined $1 trillion market caps. We have to hold them responsible for the algorithms that are pushing us. Again, they're hijacking our agency. They're hijacking our free will with these dopamine hits. Same chemical reaction as fentanyl, getting us addicted to these platforms, and outrage releases a dopamine hit for sure. And they are taking no responsibility for this. In fact, they're suing the state of Utah to stop the most comprehensive social media reforms in the world's history. They're happening right here, and we absolutely have to hold them accountable.
Just real quick, you have said that we're in a dark chapter, and you're not sure if it's the end of a dark chapter or beginning of a darker one. Is your view of America right now shaken?
Yeah, I mean, if your view of America is not shaken right now, then there's something wrong with you. This is a direct assault on America. a direct assault on every single one of us. Of course, it's an assault on Charlie, and we love Erica and her kids and his family. But this is us, and this is our chance. This is our moment. We've had periods like this in the past. I mentioned the late 60s and early 70s. But if we're waiting for a president or a governor to get us out of this dark chapter, then it will never happen. We can't. I don't understand this. Again, giving our agency up, waking up every day and saying, well, what did the president say today? That's going to determine how I react. Or what does the governor say today? That makes no sense to me. Every one of us has to look in the mirror and decide, are we going to try to make it better, or are we going to make it worse? And I pray that God will help us find him again and find our souls and find each other again.
And that's a similar sentiment that the governor had in his press conference with Charlie Kirk, and it was way more in-depth and way more eloquent. So for Steve Bannon to go off on him because Steve Bannon's all pissed off, as he should be, it's totally displaced. But I'm surprised, you guys. Dana Bash did not push him that hard. She did in the beginning. She was trying to get him to slip up and say something against leftist ideology. But the way he phrased things is he didn't give her room to find a crack in what he said without it being fact-based, evidence-based, all the sensitive things and all the meticulous and measured ways he has to go about communicating as a governor of Utah. He handled it really well, and she backed off. She saw, man, I'm not getting anywhere with this guy on this, and that was surprising. It's Sean Daniel here. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to see another interview where the Utah governor has to take on an even more extreme liberal in the media, Miss Kristen Welker from Meet the Press, check out this video right here, and I'll see you there.